It is 3 a.m., August 8th, 1963. The English countryside is pitch black. Everything is quiet. A Royal Mail train is moving down the track, heading from Glasgow to London. Inside the train, postal workers are sorting letters. It looks like a normal night shift, but they are wrong. This train is not just carrying letters. In the second carriage, there are 120 bags of used banknotes. In 1963, it was 2.6 million pounds. In today's money, that is nearly $50 million. And waiting in the bushes ahead are 15 men. They are not spies. They are not masterminds in tuxedos. They are just thieves. And they don't have high-tech gadgets. They don't have explosives. They have a plan so simple, it sounds impossible. They are going to stop this moving train using just a leather glove and a 6-volt battery. What happens in the next 30 minutes becomes the most famous heist in British history. This is the story of the Great Train Robbery. To steal $50 million, you don't need a tank. You just need to know how a railway works. The mastermind was a man named Bruce Reynolds. He didn't want a shootout. He wanted a clean stop. So he studied the signals. The gang chose a lonely spot called Sears Crossing. There were no houses nearby, no witnesses, just trees and tracks. At 3 a.m., the train was approaching at full speed. The gang did two things. First, they covered the green signal light with a simple leather glove. Second, they attached a 6-volt battery to the red signal light. It was a primitive hack, but it worked. The train driver, Jack Mills, saw the red light. He did not suspect a trap. He thought it was a technical delay. He pulled the brakes. The massive train hissed to a stop in the middle of nowhere. Jack's assistant, David Whitby, climbed down from the locomotive to call the signal box, but the wires had been cut. Before he could react, two men jumped out of the shadows. They didn't say much. They just held him down. Inside the cabin, Jack Mills was alone. Then, a masked man smashed the window. The heist had officially begun. The gang had the money, 120 bags. They loaded them into 3 vehicles and drove to a remote location, Leather Slade Farm. This was their hideout. It was 27 miles away from the crime scene. The plan was to stay there for a few weeks, hide under the radar, and then split the cash. But they were nervous. The police were launching the biggest manhunt in British history. Every radio station was talking about them. The gang decided they couldn't stay. They panicked. They divided the money and left the farm earlier than planned. They paid an associate to clean the house, to burn everything to the ground. But he took the money and never did the job. The farm stayed exactly as they left it. When the police arrived, they found a gold mine of evidence. The gang had been bored while hiding. To pass the time, they played a game of Monopoly, but they didn't use the paper money from the box. They used the real stolen banknotes. They were so relaxed, they forgot to wear their gloves. Police found fingerprints everywhere. On the Monopoly board, on a set of cards, even on a bottle of tomato ketchup. The perfect crime was ruined by a board game and a bottle of sauce. The smartest thieves in England had just handed the police their names and addresses. The police moved fast. Within months, most of the gang members were behind bars. The judge was furious. He gave them 30 years in prison. At the time, that was a massive sentence. But for one man, the story was just beginning. His name was Ronnie Biggs. 15 months into his sentence, Biggs decided he wasn't going to rot in a cell. He scaled a 30-foot wall using a rope ladder and dropped into a waiting furniture van. He vanished. He didn't just hide in another city, he fled the country. He went to Paris for plastic surgery, changed his face, and eventually ended up in Brazil. For 36 years, Biggs lived as a free man in Rio de Janeiro. He became a strange kind of celebrity. British tourists would pay money to have dinner with the famous train robber. He recorded songs with rock bands. He gave interviews to newspapers. The British government tried to bring him back, but Brazilian law protected him. He was the one who got away. But while Biggs was enjoying the sun in Rio, the rest of the gang was sitting in cold prison cells. The dream of the Great Train Robbery was turning into a nightmare of long sentences and broken lives. The world was watching a cat and mouse game that would last for decades. When we hear stories about big heists, we often think of them as victimless crimes. We see the money, we see the daring escapes, but there is a part of this story that isn't told in the movies. Jack Mills, the train driver. Jack was 57 years old. He was just a man trying to finish his shift and go home to his family. When he was hit over the head with that metal bar, something broke. He suffered from constant headaches and severe trauma. He never worked again. 7 years after the robbery, he died. The thieves didn't just steal money. They took a man's health and his peace of mind. And what about the fortune? $50 million. Most of it was never recovered. It was laundered through small shops, hidden in walls, or spent on legal fees and life on the run. By the time Ronnie Biggs finally returned to England in 2001, he was a sick old man. He didn't have a penny to his name. The Great Train Robbery didn't make anyone's life better. It was a heist that changed the way trains are protected. It changed the way police investigate crimes. But mostly, it serves as a reminder. You can plan for the signals, you can plan for the guards, but you can never plan for the weight of your own choices. The money is gone, the men are gone, only the story remains.